Hello, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. And this is our monthly informational webinar called Get to Know VO. And we are super excited to welcome our nth degree member, Rachael Warren Allen, who's going to be talking about her journey from her satisfying corporate job to becoming full-time VO and how we can um, I kind of subtitle this Get to Know VO is how can we have all the toys? Um, so so glad you guys could be here with us. Kelsey V is here as our moderator. So we will, I think, just hop in and get started with Rachael. I think we're planning to go about 90 minutes. Is that right, Rach?
Yeah, probably so we have plenty of time for Q&A.
Yeah, we're planning to go about 90 minutes. Everything's recorded. If I know this is like smack in the middle of a corporate day. Um, if you need to roll, just let us know and everything's recorded so you won't miss anything. So without further ado, welcome to Rachael. So excited. We've been talking about this collaboration for a while, and I just think you are the perfect person to come share this. So yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much. And I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited to see so many people coming in. So that's fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my presentation. You'll learn more about me kind of through the whole thing. So I think as Tish already said, um, I'm a full-time voiceover artist now, but I spent 16 years in the corporate world before that. And I'll kind of just share my story as we go along. And then if you have more questions after, of course, uh, we can we can get into those. So I'm going to, is it should I have to hit the next button?
Yep.
All right.
We get it.
Okay. So here we are. We'll just get going on it. I need this to be in a different place. I need this to be over here. All right. Are you still just seeing my presentation? Yes? Okay. Excellent. Okay. I won't really be able to see you guys because my screens are, I'm juggling two screens. So, Kelsey, let me know if I need to be interrupted at some point for any reason. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of go through this. As Tish said, we're going to talk about um, doing the VO thing and another job and making that transition, knowing kind of when to make that transition. If when is also the part, but I'm really excited to be here. You can see my business name here is Joy of Doing, and that's kind of a really through thread in my life and business. So before we get really started, I wanted to just take a moment, settle, say hello, tell everybody thank you for being here. You're here. Let's be fully present together. Uh, Maybe take a few breaths. Feel the ground beneath your feet if you're in a chair, if you're standing, however that is. And just think about where you are right now, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Where you are right now, where you maybe want to go. Since you're here, I'm assuming that you're pursuing.
I'm gonna assume the next word was voiceover.
What you like about it, what
Mhm.
you don't like about
Oh,
it.
Rachel, you cut out at voiceover.
Sorry, am I here now?
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
I cut out at.
Assume you're doing voiceover.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm hopefully that won't happen a lot. Uh, um. Okay, so since you're here, I'm assuming you're doing voiceover and have another job. And so I want you to just sort of take a few moments to think about both of those parts of your life and what you like about your current job and what you don't like about it, what you like about your voiceover, where you feel like it is. And then just recognize that everybody's journey is different. So I'm going to share a lot about my journey, and I'm specifically going to share some steps that I have kind of put together to go through transitions, to go through change. But everybody's journey is different. So you don't need to hear one person's story and think that's how I got to do it. And as we're just finishing that, just realize that you're where you need to be right now. You're not too late. You're not too early. You're just living the journey and hopefully taking joy in doing it and becoming the next version of yourself. So without further ado, let's move on. I would love to know a little bit about people here. So I have to find how I can see the chat for a moment. But I'd love to
Go ahead.
I'd love to just hear what sort of jobs people have. As far as what sort of industries are here with us today.
Why don't we put it in the chat
In the chat, yes.
and then we can read it for you.
Type
So
into the chat some of the different things that people are doing in addition to their voiceover.
yeah, Kelsey, why don't you take it away?
Yes, we have administrative assistant in the wellness world, AV tech and hospitality, world language teacher, translator, manager, yoga teacher. Peter Ponce is a K through 12 education as an administrator. Independent school as an administrator for Nicole. Automotive training and QA manager for Trey. Virginia is in business ops and commercial real estate. We got all kinds of people here. Aerospace industry, medical background, doctor, cannabis grower, project management, theater overhire, driver, typesetting industry, law firm.
Awesome.
Lots of
So many great things. And here's the thing. Here's one of the things I'd like to point out as part of this. All of those, you're going to be able to use that for your voiceover. Like, also, and it goes the other way. Like, there's so much that you could probably do in those areas. So thank you for sharing that. And then the next one I wanted to ask is what do you feel like is holding you back right now? And if you don't have words for it, that's fine. I'm going to flip to my next slide pretty fast, but I just be interested here again if you want to type it in. What's holding you back?
Energy and time, poor self-marketing, finances, overwhelm, lack of cash, money, and more money, insights, too much time devoted to the day job, crowding out the ability to like do something else.
Yep. Yep. Okay. That's great. I mean, when we're getting so change is hard. That's kind of one of the things. Change is really hard. And of course, this is a transition we're talking about, right? I mean, we'll talk also about kind of juggling them both. And just so you know, as part of mine, I did that for 7 years. Different people have different timelines, but I had my voiceover business on the side for 7 years. And actually, I had a business on the side my entire corporate career. So if you, when we get to a little bit more about me, I also paint. My booth has art in it that I did. So I'm also a painter, and I would go to art fairs in the summer. I was in a gallery. So I was generally doing something, a business in addition to my corporate business. But making that, so that's a thing that we'll talk about also, but making that transition, it's hard, right? It's hard to leave the familiar. That's scary. Building something often feels very overwhelming. I completely hear that. you're not, this one didn't come up on there, but you're maybe not sure if you have the skills. Are you ready for it yet? Where in the world would you get the time? That one seems to definitely be there. I know for sure when I'm in groups with my fellow VOs, imposter syndrome comes up a lot. We all have it. You don't know where to begin. You know where to begin, but there's so much that it's overwhelming. In some cases, maybe you're not even at that point. You just sort of are like, I know something's wrong. I just don't feel satisfied, but I'm not quite sure what the change is that I need. And the change that you want will change what you have. So I think it kind of sums up to say it often just feels easier to stay. When I officially decided to leave my corporate career, I had so many people tell me like, that's so courageous. And it just really cemented that for me. It's hard to make changes. So today we're going to talk about 5 steps that I've kind of put together that will help through change. And when it's the right change, it's amazing. But I also have learned that when it's the wrong change, that can be pretty amazing too. So I'm gonna share these things that I've kind of learned have helped me to embrace change. And you can use these in all kinds of change, but for sure for this sort of transition that we're talking about. So this is some sort of questions that if you're answering yes to these, then you're for sure in the right place. Are you ready to commit to your creative career? Are you ready to decide what level of business is right for you right now? Are you ready to get your voice on the mic consistently? So for voiceover, I'll talk about that a little bit more. Put your imposter syndrome in the back seat or to the side. I always loved it in the dojo. We would talk about, I think we named our inner critic. And, it's not that they're not allowed in the booth at all, but they don't get to be on the mic. And I love that. I carry that with me. I actually just told my son recently, that inner critic, tell it, thank you, now sit over there. And he loved that. So, it's a powerful tool. Are you ready to embrace your creative business and create the future that you want? So these are the kinds of things, they feel simple, but they're deep. So 5 steps. Understand yourself. Set your goals. Create synergies. Allocate your time and take care of yourself and enjoy the journey. I kind of have those as the same in self-care. So a little bit more about my story, just to, why am I here? How have I come up with like, these are the 5 things that you should focus on? As we've said, I spent 16 years in my corporate position. I actually had a job before that too. So you could say 17 years in jobs. But the 16 years were with the same company, kind of. We were sold at one point. So, and it was in a corporation, and from the things you guys listed, I don't know how many of you are in like a corporation, but they reorganize a lot. So I changed jobs a lot, and I think there was only one time in all of my job changes where I was like the driving force behind it changing. Most of them were them coming along and being like, your job's going away. And I would be like, okay, have you got something else for me to do? And we would I'd apply for something new and I would move over. One of the hardest one of those, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at the same time as my job was going away. So that was like a huge life change. It had a huge impact on my decisions of what I was going to do about my job going away. So there have been a lot of changes in my life, and I completely understand. I'm going to share with you next some, mistakes that I feel like people make when they're facing change, that make it so that change is scary. And because I've been through change so many times, so many different types of change, I feel like these are the things that I've come to to hold really close so that I can embrace change. When something is changing now, I can be like, okay, how are we going to do it? And move straight towards the like, embrace it and make it great instead of the fear cycle. I don't know how many of you have maybe talked about this or seen these charts, but often the change cycle is often the same as the grief cycle. So like people will have like I'm not going to be able to remember them exactly off the top of my head, but usually there's like they resist it, they get angry about it, they get depressed about it, and then you slowly move towards like acceptance. So there's all these negative feelings that often come to people with change. And my goal for you is to go into that feeling empowered about the change you want instead of scared of it, instead of worried about it. Because when we make our choices from a place of empowerment, we can make really strong choices and we can succeed even if it doesn't look quite how we had imagined, you know. When we have to make them out of fear or um, we're like trying to escape something, those usually are not as powerful. So that's why I've been through a lot and how I've over time come to these things as like the keys to move yourself forward. So yes, I have this little like I said, my transition, I had like 7 years. Just to give you my voiceover transition from my job, 7 years where I had my voiceover business and my corporate career just going at the same time. And I was happy with that. I was doing that. First, I was kind of just building up the voiceover. Then I built the business and I had it as a part-time business. And then I had 18 months of transition, basically 18 months where I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to, well, where there was like the part where I was like, I think I'm going to make this my full-time job. And then the part where I was like, yes, I am transitioning. And that was 18 months to like think about it, test it a little bit, make the decision. From the decision until I left was 12 months. And I actually stayed at my corporate job for 7 months after I told them I was leaving. Not entirely. I was hoping to stay for 4 months, and they asked me to stay an additional 3 months, and so I did. I'd been there 16 years. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But so it was not. I took the time to build it. And I've heard, different timelines from different people, but definitely it's really comfortable to build your voiceover skills up while you have another job. Like I really enjoyed that. That was a great part of the journey. So, like I said, change. I've been through a lot of things. So some things that I've seen happen that have happened to me and then that I've seen happen to other people. One of the changes I went through, I mentioned the reorganizations, but at one point I was managing a lab. So I had a whole team of people that I was responsible for, and our lab was moved. And I'm in Oregon. And I worked with some other pretty staunch Oregonians. We didn't want to move. None of us wanted to move. So that was really rough. We had to close our lab. All those people had to find other jobs or be laid off, or one gal retired. And so that also taught me a lot about what different people go through. So some things that people face. The should. People end up doing things, building skills based on expectations or pressures from other people rather than your own, what you feel feeds you. So, and this is even like a joke in voiceover, right? Like people, you hear the thing all the time. Yeah, someone said, you have a great voice. You should do voiceover. And sure, in some cases, maybe that's you and that's great and it got you here. But, we also joke about it a lot, like how often people don't think about how much more is in that. So there are a lot of people who end up building skills because they've been told, you should do this, you should do that. So being guided by other people's shoulds. It's my first one. Following the path of least resistance rather than focusing on what will be satisfying and fulfilling for you for your life. So this is not about not doing things that come easily to you. If things come easily to you and you find them fulfilling, fantastic. But this is about, I actually had a lot of coworkers who got promoted into positions they hated. And I had one gal who worked for me, and she really was ready to be, like, on paper, she was at a point where she should be promoted, but she was strong and I was willing to listen to her. And she was like, I don't want to be promoted. I love what I'm doing. What can we, and so we just talked about, like, how can we change that position so that she could maybe help out more in the lab in certain ways, so that, we could get her a raise. But I saw this happen a ton where people would just do the path that was, like, put in front of them. Instead of thinking, is this what I'll find fulfilling? Okay, that's the next one. Next one, creating no's by expecting them. Again, in the dojo, they have a thing, people will often give you what you ask if you ask for it. Like, there's a lot of help out there. Excuse me, water. There's a lot of help to be had out there if you just ask for it. But you need to ask for it, like, really thinking about how can it be good? How can you show them what you need? Not just going in expecting it to be no. So again, this is in the job world. I ended up working 2 different times in my 16 years. I worked a 4-10 schedule. And I had multiple colleagues who were like, yeah, I asked, they said no. And I was like, well, what was the conversation? And they'd be like, well, I mean, I knew it wasn't very likely, so I asked, they said no. And that was the end. So we'll talk about that. But next one is lacking the tools and accountability to use our time to our greatest benefit and satisfaction. So for sure, there are ebbs and flows to life. And there's times when you have time on your hands to kind of, fizzle away. This time, when you're trying to have a career and another business, probably not that time. So I absolutely hear that pain point that you guys mentioned. Time is difficult, but you can do it. You have to be purposeful and commit to it. And we'll come back to this again. So accountability, though, is also a thing that people miss a lot. And then finally, resenting the journey that gets us to our destination. Sometimes we get so focused on being annoyed about the journey part, where we are now. But there is something to be learned from every part of our journey. And who you are today is different than who you'll be tomorrow because of the experiences you have today. So trying to embrace that. And there are things, again, as I was on the U.S. leadership team at the end of my corporate career, and so I actually had to be one of the people that was helping communicate some reorganizations. Was by far my least favorite part of my career. Communicating reorganizations, telling people that their jobs are going away, sucks. I don't know how else to say it. It's awful, and yet I still learned a lot from it. And I learned a lot from that process, and I learned a lot about people, and I learned a lot about communicating with people, which I draw on in my voiceover. These experiences, it's, at some point you can draw on that experience of telling someone this really uncomfortable, awful thing and trying to help them see how they're going to get through it. So there we are. Brings us back to the 5 things from those mistakes. These are the 5 things that I've kind of figured out. Understanding yourself, setting your goals, creating synergies, allocating time, and then enjoying the journey. How are we on time?
Great.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're at 10:30.
Perfect. Fantastic. So I can't dig into all of these today, but I am going to especially spend a little bit of time on synergies and allocating time, and I'll touch on all of them, but just so you know, these are kind of the areas, and that's it. We'll move on. So the first one, like I said, this one, understanding yourself. This one and setting your goals, I'll kind of breeze through, but just know that these are both like really kind of soul searching topics. So they take some time to dig into. This is not about like, do you like chocolate cake or vanilla cake? This is like, what drives you? If you are on your deathbed and you look back at your life, will you have done the things you wanted to do in a broad sense? So I knew I wanted a creative outlet. You know, sort of there's like, what do you want for family? What do you want for friends? Do you have other goals like, I like to travel? Do you have a travel goal? What do you want for your career? Like these are sort of like big mountains. And that gets into our goals a little. But so what fills your cup and what drains it? And then also, because we're talking about starting a business, what are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? Because if you are going to have your own business, you do need to kind of think about what goes into that. What part of that am I not good at? And how am I going to deal with that? You know, which parts don't I have to do? Which parts do I have to do? Or at least make sure they are done. So this is that kind of search of understanding yourself. How important is the money? How much money, like, you know, what sort of money do you need? That's a talk you have to have. How flexible do you want to be? How flexible are you currently? How flexible do you want to be? What sort of genres do you want to pursue? This is maybe for me an interesting one. I love animation. Like my degrees were in biology and art, and I almost went on to get my master's in animation. Like I love animation, but I also knew I wasn't going to move to LA. And my husband really does not like the sun. And so, like, that was not going to happen. And so, when I was looking at my voiceover options, it was like, well, sure, that's a great thing. And animation training, I think, is fantastic to pursue because it does broaden your range. So, regardless, but I knew, doesn't matter that I love that, that's not going to be my main target. Like, that if that happens sometime, great. And that's become a little bit more realistic since COVID. But you know, you have to kind of take real soul searching looks. So it's that kind of understanding yourself. Okay. Once you understand yourself, then that's, you know, create your goals, and you're going to have these big goals. They're kind of your mountains, right? And that's where I was touching on before, like have a do you have a romantic relationship goal? Do you have a goal for your career? Do you have a goal for, do you need a creative outlet? These sorts of things. So you can kind of picture those as your mountains that you're driving towards. And as long as you have the mountain in view, it doesn't really matter that you like have to wind your way through. But with something like what we're talking about today, a thing I hear people say a lot is, I'll be like, oh, are you interested in, you know, going full time with your voiceover, or what do you want with that? And they'll say like, oh, well, that's the dream. And that's fine. But when you're going to commit to it, it has to be more than, oh, that's the dream. It has to be, I'm going to do that. So when I make a career shift, one of the things I super missed from my corporate career was I did a whole bunch of employee engagement. I loved having a team, and that's why now I've started doing some coaching. Um, but so the moment it becomes real, and it was the same with my voiceover one, is when I say it to my husband. So when I say to my husband, I think I want to transition to having my voiceover be my full-time thing. That's the moment that it becomes real. Before that, it's just rattling around in my head. So whatever it is for you that makes it real. I mean, maybe it's like you write it somewhere, or you have a specific friend that you share it with, but whatever it is that changes it from that thing of like, I mean, I have like a cajillion things. Before we started here, I was like, yeah, maybe someday I'll do a children's book. Maybe all this, maybe all that. I mean, I have so many things that sound fun, but they're all just rattling around in there. And then there are things that I'm like, I am a voiceover artist. I commit to that. I am making this a business. That's different than I am, yeah, I do this a little bit. So commit to it. Oh, I didn't put my things up. Here they are. What does a fulfilled life look for you? Focus on the goal and take ownership of it. That was that last part I was talking about. This slide is about harmonizing to energize. So I was showing you before in that last slide just one mountain, right? And that's not really what life looks like. It's like this. You've got several mountains, right? We were talking about that life goals. Like here, there's a mountain. There's 3 mountains here, I think. Maybe there's another one off to the side. Also, you might get to your mountain. Tish and I have talked about this recently. You get to your mountain, and then you're like, oh, look at that next mountain. That's been my recent business sort of change. But also, like on this slide here, the road disappears after this first hill. Who knows what's happening down in that valley? There might be like a whole town that you stay in for like a while before you move on to this next part. So that's okay. Just keep your mountains in mind. And then with that, when you have this specific one, set your goals, focus, do a now and next. So again, with the time thing, and we'll touch on some other time stuff, but the now and next, 5 minutes. If you can do 5 minutes, you can do something. Sometimes I'm like, well, okay, 5 minutes is like not even enough time for me to shift my mind. So, okay, maybe you need 15 minutes. But make a list one day so that the next time you have 15 minutes, you can pick a thing on that list and quickly do it. Focus on that thing. If this is the thing, I'm now ready to transition my voiceover business to its next stage, whatever that is for you. Then what that's the far up on the top of the mountain goal. But what can you do right now? And then what's the next thing? That helps break it down. And again, that's something that we would dig into a lot. We could dig into way more. Okay. Creating synergies. I feel like lots of this gets missed a lot. And this is like Tish and I were talking about a lot. Have all the toys. Create a world of and. Adjust your mindset, maybe, if you're not already, about your boss and your business. So in a lot of cases, you might be able to find ways to use your skills that you're building for your job. So think about, even if your school or your business has a phone that people call and there's a recorded message, you could ask to do that, for them. I mean, it'd be a way to practice it, get it there, share what you're doing. So how can the skills that you're developing help your employer? Start using them at your work if you can, and just be creative about it. I mean, so in my job, I actually did my first training. So as far as some of these synergy things, I did my first voiceover training on work time. So the agreement with my boss, and what I did was there was a department that was making some videos and they didn't have very good voiceover. And so I said, how about I do the voiceover for those videos? I get trained in it. That will improve the videos that we're turning out. They were internal videos. Um, but you still want your employees to like the videos, not be like, "Bleh." So I was like, we'll make the videos better. I will pay for my training because it gets more complicated when your employer pays. Often you have to, you know, commit to like that you'll stay for a certain amount of time or what. And I wasn't thinking about leaving. I just didn't want to complicate it that way. So I said, the cool thing is the company will get better voiceover on these videos. I will get this training that I'm really interested in. I will pay for the training, but I'd like to do the majority of my classes during work time. And I did some on my own time too. So I just was like, but I'd like, 3 hours a week to do voiceover training. And they were like, yeah, cool. But largely because I gave them benefits. Like I explained to them it was going to benefit them. I was developing this skill that then I would use at work to improve something we were doing at work. And so then it was, a pretty easy yes for them. Similarly, I asked for an adjusted schedule later in my career, and that was to work 4 10s. And I know there are jobs that this is not possible, but be creative about it. In this case, I worked with colleagues in Europe. And so I said, look, I will start at 6 in the morning. And so I will have more overlap with my colleagues. But then I want to work 4 10s so that I can have, I took Wednesdays off. So that allowed me to have 1 day a week that I was dedicating entirely to my business. And that was when I was building it up. That was in that 18 months period. So again, I didn't say, hey, I just want to work 4 10s. I'd like to have a day off to do my own thing. I said, I see that the overlap with the colleagues in Europe is limited, but I can increase that by starting quite early. I don't like starting at 6. I'm not a morning person. But it will help our team if I start early, and then that changes it so that I can have these days. And you could also do like a half day if if you want to do like, you could do 9s and a 4. I think it can work out that way. So the thing is to think about like, how can you show them that it's beneficial to them as well, or at least neutral, but don't just go in and be like, hey, can you change course because I want you to? Think about it. They got a smooth sailing ship. They got a whole bunch of stuff. They're like juggling. And then you come in and are like, can we change course and go over there just because I want to? They're going to say no. So think about like, hey, I happen to know that over there I could learn this thing and that would help us get more of this, the fish. I don't sail. I'm falling apart with my sailing thing, but so could we go over there and then that will help us do our fishing better? And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. And also, like I said before, look for places that you can use your skills for them. So I voiced videos, I voiced trainings. I eventually made those as well because I like to do that. But you could just, and it doesn't, you don't have to, I'm not saying, I did it on work time, right? So I'd be like, hey, I do voiceover. So I will voice videos. I didn't voice them for free. They paid me, but they just paid me my salary, right? I mean, I did it during my work time. So you're not like, you just make it part of your job. So, and I also like, because I paint, I actually did like, I painted logos on things on walls and stuff as well. Like, I was like, oh, look, here's an outlet for this thing I do. Why don't you have me do it? And it will cost you a little bit less. And yes, I had a job, I had to juggle around it. So there is that part. But with voiceover, in a relatively small amount of time, you can voice the phone answering service. And so it's not a huge impact to like take that out of your normal work day and put it to that instead. So synergy stuff. The other thing about that is be honest and helpful is what works for me. I was never secretive about that I had a business on the side. First of all, in most jobs, they want to know because if there's a conflict of interest, they need to know. If you disclose it, there's no problem. If you don't disclose it and you're doing stuff and then they find out about it, that's when there's a problem. In general, for us with a creative career, that's not an issue. You're not working for a competitor or doing that kind of thing. It's not an issue. But also, I always found it benefited me that I told people what I was doing. I didn't hide that I had this thing on the side, and that allowed me to be really flexible with my manager as well. There was time where I had enough flexibility in what I did that as long as I was getting in my hours in a day and I was there for the meetings that I was supposed to be there, if I needed to take a break in the middle of the day to go do an audition, that was fine as long as I did my put God in my full day's work. So it allowed me to have really honest discussions with my managers about what I needed. And it also allowed me to, at one point, we built a job before me. It was my favorite one, probably. Actually, I liked all of my jobs for different reasons. But we built a job where I was the communications lead for R&D globally. And so I made videos and trainings and I voiced them and I created the videos and I was involved in employee engagement. And that was like my favorite job. And we created that job. And it was largely because I'd been really, really honest and open about what I love doing. And we built in both sets of my skills. The R&D was my biology background, and the voiceover and art was my other side. So, also, when I left, that was like not a surprise. Everybody was like, oh, that totally makes sense. So I've heard lots of stories of ghosting and things like that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen. But if, in my case, you'll have to read your situation, of course. But the fact that it had always been on the table made it so everybody was like, oh, that's so cool and exciting. And we totally see why you're doing that. And we're going to get as much as we can from you while you're here. And I guess that's the other thing I'd say. Be present at your job. Do your job well, and they won't care that you also are asking to do your other stuff. If it becomes where you're like, I don't actually do this well because I'm distracted by that, of course they're going to resent it. Wouldn't you? If you were employing you and you were doing that? So, just be present in it. Get what you can from it. Okay. Whew. Now I feel like I'm going too long.
You're doing fine, darling. It's really good stuff, and we can go over a little bit with questions. So yeah, just
Okay.
everything's really, really good.
All right. So then allocating time. Time came up multiple times. I hear you. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to have a job and a business. When you make that choice, you're committing to you're not having a 40-hour work week. You're having a longer work week. So that's a thing. Decide for you. And that's also like we're mostly talking about when you're at that point that I was at where you're making the transition. You're like, I'm going now to full-time, but you don't. I did the part-time for 7 years and I liked that. It was good. I was satisfied with that. And so choose what is right for you right now. Know that you can choose a different level at a different time, but commit to that choice. And the difference between, it being a hobby, like, oh, I just do it every once in a while, and a career, even if it's a part-time career, is mostly mindset. When you say, I'm a voiceover artist, I do this as a career, you're making a commitment. That's different than, oh yeah, sometimes I write poems, but I wouldn't say I'm a poet. Well, not a professional poet, So commit to it, realize what it is, think about what you feel like you can do. So a few different things that I did. Use your lunch. And like I said, I did different things with my schedules at different times. One of the things that I did for a while was I asked for an hour and a half lunch. And then you block it on your calendar because at my company, we were always making meetings with each other and people would use the Outlook thing where you can see people's availability. So if you don't block it, it might get scheduled over. But so I had a period of time where I did an hour and a half lunch so that I had enough time to kind of get some auditions in, and I would block it on my calendar so that I did not get meetings scheduled in there. And of course, every once in a while, if something came up, but that's the thing, really, like, make some commitments and stick to them. I used a timer. So again, depends on your flexibility, but I also had there was some parts in the transition period where we were also dealing with COVID, so I actually worked really long days. Um, but and so I actually ended up using a timer to save myself. So it was not so much to make sure I got in enough hours, it was to be aware of how many extra hours I was putting in and to try not to. But I would, because I was working at home, which some of you may be, I would set a timer for any time that if I was in the office, I was working, right? So I wouldn't pause the timer if I went to the bathroom. If you're in the office and you go to the bathroom, you're not off the clock. It's just, but I would, if I was like, oh, I need to go take an audition, I would pause my timer. And so that allowed me to be like, I know I don't have any question about, am I giving the expected time to my employer? I know I am. I didn't lose track and, oh, how much time did I spend auditioning? And, oh, how much extra do I need to work? Because I always would go the other way. I would overdo it, right? I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I spent an hour or an hour and a half auditioning, so I'll work 2 extra hours. Like, so I largely did it to like save myself, but I think it can work anyway, where you're like, okay, this is the amount of time it's expected that I put in. I'm getting paid if you're hourly or salary, but it still is like, these are sort of the hours that are expected of me. This makes me feel really comfortable that I'm not shirking my duty. That's important. That was important to me. I always felt like if somebody asked, it was the same thing when we would like talk about what we did when we were traveling. If somebody asked, what did you do? How did you use the company's money or time? If I can answer and not feel that like prickle of unease, then I'm good. you know? And so that was a way that I made sure that I felt really comfortable. Don't forget to set aside time for your friends and family and set aside time for yourself. You're going to be busy. And if you're doing this for a while, 7 years, you're going to be busy for a long time. So for a long time when it was part-time, I alternated evenings during the week. So 3 evenings a week, I worked on the business, and 2 evenings a week, my husband and I would watch shows together. That's one of our, evening times together. And then the weekend evenings were negotiable because there's more time on the weekends to sort of decide. But so I would alternate so that we always knew, oh, it's this day, so I'm working tonight, but tomorrow we'll have time together. Whatever works for you, but don't forget to put that time in to continue your bonds and relax. Especially when you're doing it part-time, I kind of think of that as a marathon, right? So you plan it this way, where you're like, this is the schedule. And then when you're getting ready for the transition, what I did was built in sprints. So in my case, I built in a sprint early on when I was considering it, where I upped the amount of auditions I was doing. I was not happy I was basically seeing, when I up the auditions, how does the work increase? I was not happy with the increase, which is then when I went to the dojo and was like, I need to brush up on skills and get myself like up to higher standards again. So then my next sprint was that training with the dojo, and it was understood. But the thing is we knew how long it was, right? I signed up for a certain month's program. So we knew this amount of time is going to be a rodeo. It's going to be real busy. And I planned in that after that, there'd be a little break. Like, it wasn't like then I'm going to immediately launch into the next big push. It was like, we're going to push through this, and then I will take a little break so that we can all breathe. We have our son is 8 now, so, he's pretty young through these transitions. So I planned sprints. So a lot of the time, think of it as a marathon. Plan in your sprints. Plan breaks after your sprints. Because you can get through really hard, tough, really busy times when you can see, okay, it's going to end in this much time. When it's like, this is just forever, it feels completely overwhelming. Find some opportunities to double up on things. I'm not advocating for multitasking because I do think it's best to sort of focus your attention. That works largely best for me, and I think scientifically they've said best to focus. But line up a group of voiceover podcasts on your phone that you can listen to while you're commuting or going to pick up your kids from school or whatever, so that there are moments when there can be doubling up for sure. Accountability buddy is fantastic. I can't remember the percentage, but accountability raises the likelihood that you'll do something a ridiculous percentage. It's a very high percentage. I will say the wrong number if I say it, but it's like mind-blowingly high, 80% or something. Like having somebody who will be like, hey, aren't you doing what you said you're gonna do? And your business is a client. Think of your business not just as like, oh, this thing that I'm carrying around, but like think of it as a thing, a client that you're serving that has needs. It needs stuff from you. It needs to be treated well. It needs to be acknowledged as an entity. And then also, Tish and I have talked about this quite a bit. Don't be afraid of the business. If it's your side business, you're a self-employed creative. So this isn't what I put here, but whatever. I'm going to tell you this tip now. Your business can be creative. You get to make it serve you and how you like to work. So that's fun and exciting. This one was about time. And this is true. When I was doing when I was doing voiceover and my regular career, I almost never promised 24-hour turnaround. I almost always promise 24-hour turnaround now. Well, I promise one business day. I don't do weekends unless it's someone I know and they ask me to, then I will, but I don't offer weekends by default. So I now do one business turnaround, but I always put my quotes. I would say 48 hours for short things. And yes, you won't get quite as many jobs, but you will keep your sanity. And when you're doing a push, maybe you change that a little bit, but be protective. And also, like I said, this was what worked for me. You have to pick what works for you. But be realistic about when you can get a job done. I did a lot of audiobooks when I was doing it part-time because they have long deadlines and I could do them in the evenings a lot. So I picked jobs. I did corporate jobs. I didn't apply for the jobs that needed directed sessions. Not until I was in the very last 6 months of my transition did I apply for those jobs because I wanted to get more experience with it. I practiced it with friends and stuff so that I would be ready, but I had a job. So, I had to be realistic. I applied for jobs that allowed me to record on my own time. And I did not give unrealistic deadlines for when I could get it done. Be honest about it. You will lose clients if you miss the deadline. You will not lose clients if you say it's going to be 48 hours and you turn it in 24. They won't mind that at all. I had a professor in school who probably taught me one of my best lessons about time as a creative, and he said at the beginning of the semester, these are your 5, I don't remember how many it was, but say 5 projects. I don't care when you turn them in. You have to tell me when you're going to turn them in. You can turn them all in at noon on the last day of the semester. But if you miss the deadline that you set for your project, you fail that project. There is no grade, you fail. And I think that was the most valuable lesson for a creative, to be like, you get to set your deadlines. You get to tell them when you can do it, but then you better do it. So quickly, this is an exercise you can do to help you kind of think about your mountains, how you're allocating your time, how to keep up with your marathon. If you kind of think about your life goals or really important things that you're trying to juggle, give them each a glass. The more glasses you have, the more thinly you're spreading yourself. Give them each a glass. Get yourself a pitcher of water. Pour some water into each glass. So this is how much time I'm going to dedicate to my job, or how much it requires. That means I have this much left to split between my family, my friends, this other hobby, my business. See if you're happy with how they're dispersed out. You've only got one pitcher of water, so you are the pitcher of water. You have to kind of be like, these are the things I'm going to put my time into. And I have to understand that means each one only gets this much, or I'm not really going to focus on that right now. I'm going to pour it over into this other one. So I think this is a great exercise to do to set yourself. Okay. Very quickly, we've touched on most of these things. Discuss your time expectations with your manager. This is sort of about juggling both of the things. Disclose any conflicts of interest. I put, especially in corporations, that's super important. But also, I think it's just valuable to have the conversation. Offer up your creative skills to use for them. And then for your business, your own, begin for voiceover. Like I just talked about, I began with genres that allowed more flexibility. I picked specific times that I was going to work on my business. So like I said, I had every other night that I would work on my business. Consider alternate work schedules if that's something possible for you. And consistency is really key, and especially for voiceover. I again, here's a thing where I do hear people and they'll be like, oh yeah, I did 2 auditions last week and I didn't do any, and maybe I'll get one in next week. And if you're serious about transitioning, you need to get a regular beat going. And it keeps your voice working, it keeps your skills greased. It's a habit that you have to build. So I aim for about 150 auditions a month now that I'm full-time. But when I was part-time and then when I was gearing up, I would change that. But so say it's 5 auditions a week. 2 a night for the 3 nights or something like that. The other thing is it helps you get faster with auditioning. So if it's like, every time I go to audition, it takes me an hour and a half because I haven't auditioned for 3 weeks. I promise, if you audition regularly, it will get faster. And also, this is where, for the imposter syndrome, do what feels good to you. This is my take on the whole thing. Do what feels good for you that you could redo, because they might not come back for a month and you might not remember what you did. So, and send it off and move on. Do the next one. Be consistent with it though, and you will get more efficient as well. So that's a voiceover specific one. All right. Last one of the 5. Practice self-care. Enjoy the journey. 2 jobs. It's a lot of work. So acknowledge that. Be ready to carry that and figure out what is the balance that's right for you and what stage business do you want right now and next. I've talked about a lot of these already. So the top one, not as much. This one's one that is good for me to remind myself a lot. Sometimes less than 100% is enough. Actually, I was at the branding guy at the nth degree catapults, Tish.
Mm-hmm.
And
Got
I
it.
was sick. I was sick during that, and I hadn't got quite as much done as I wanted. And he said to me, "It's okay. When you got 85%, bringing 85% is better than not coming at all."
Mhm.
And I just wanted to hug him. I forget that one. It's important. I also did a thing recently where someone said to me, "Look, just if you do a D, that's better than not doing it at all. Do a D plus version. It's better than not doing it at all." And it was true. And I, you know, show up, do the thing. I'm not saying, it's better to do it and improve upon it. Plus, once you do that version, you have something to improve upon. So it's freeing. It was freeing for me, at least. I hope it's freeing for some of you. I've touched on this is often a marathon, so don't treat it like a sprint. Don't try to cram it all in, and be conscious about when your sprints are. Allow yourself the time it takes. When detours happen, they happen. Uh, Life things come up sometimes, and we roll with we roll with it. And also, while you have two jobs, enjoy that. When I had two jobs, my voiceover income was extra. I just used it to do fun things and to put into my voiceover career. I, bought equipment and got training, and now I have to pay the bills with it. So that's nice. I'm enjoying this as well, but there is something very nice about having it be the extra income. So take advantage of that while you can. Also, of course, when you are building up that transition, having a plan for how you're going to have a chunk of money to go through the beginning of that transition is important. And there's various different ways that you can achieve that. But putting a little aside from those jobs each time could be one of them. But just acknowledge that that's a nice benefit of that. So there we go. We made it through. Understand yourself, set your goals, create synergies, allocate your time purposefully, take care of yourself through the whole thing. And a few things that are just voiceover specific from my journey. Practice self-motivation, accountability, like I said, but also like figure out if there's a way that you can help with your accountability. Find an accountability buddy, get a coach. All of those are great. But self-employed means self-employed. There is no boss standing over you saying you got to do this thing. You have to do that for yourself. Plan for time off and sick time. This is one that I did plan for, but I didn't plan for it as well as I would have. So my tip is, I was used to being paid if I got sick or wanted to take vacation, and I realized I wouldn't be getting paid. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll need some money for that. But what I didn't realize is in voiceover, you're not working and you're not auditioning. So it kind of hits twice. So just when you're kind of thinking about your money and stuff, just realize that's a factor. Connect with others. You're here, so you're already tied in with one great community. But yeah, voiceover is us in our little space. So it's really good to find ways to connect with people, especially again, if you're at a job where you're used to going and being around people all the time. I'm an introvert and I worked from home even before COVID. So it wasn't that big of a shock for me, but I can imagine it being quite a shock in some cases. Keep planning. It's going to change. Once you get to this goal, you're going to have another goal. You're going to realize the next piece. You're going to realize the next thing you want to do. You're going to realize, in my case, what I missed. So I missed helping other people. I mean, I love working on the projects, but it's not the same sort of relationship as like when I had a team or did employee engagement or did mentoring and that kind of stuff. So that's keep planning the next thing. I already mentioned treat your business like a client, so take care of it, treat it with respect, recognize that it has needs, and that you are in control. This is the when you approach change like this, you are in control. You get to make these changes from a place of power, from how you want to build it. So it's going to be how you want it. And that's a thing that I also feel like we're good about and bad about in voiceover. Sometimes, we really say like, this is how you have to do it. And oh, the journey and the industry keeps changing and everybody's in different places, and take all of the advice and make the journey that you need. That's it. There you go. My email is here. If anybody is interested in working with me, this is my coaching email. I am offering a special for the Dojo group for the next month. And we could dig into some of this stuff more. I could help make an action plan with you, that kind of stuff. So that's an option. You can have 3 30-minute sessions or 6 30-minute sessions, and we can go through some of this stuff. If you're interested in that, email me. I think we'll probably send out a calendar thing later as well. And yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Rachel, thank you so much. This has been illuminating. A lot of the things that you're talking about being in transition are applicable when you have your business too. So it's really powerful to hear you share your journey and uh, just kind of bless the whole thing correct. Like I love that position of empowerment. So we're going to start taking questions in just a second. I'll share a little bit because it is kind of the top of the hour. I'll share a little bit about what's going on at the dojo as well and how we're here, what's going on here and how we can be part of this as well. And then we will get to everyone's questions. As I said at the top, if you have to roll, just let us know if you want to let us know what your takeaway is or what you're taking with you. I like that better. What you're taking with you, not your takeaway, taking away. What you're taking with you from today. And then the replay will be out on Monday. So in terms of the dojo, this Get to Know V.O happens every third Wednesday, so you can make it a destination, put it on your calendar. If you can't be here every time, you can listen to it as a podcast as you're driving somewhere or something. And we also have the first Wednesday is Ask the Sensei, also at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Basically, I gather I bring in one of my esteemed voiceover colleagues and we answer your questions. JP Karliak from Queer Vox is coming up next. If you're in the beginning of your journey or want to have a little bit even firmer foundation in your journey, or you should do voiceover launchpad and workouts starting June 2nd. And if you're looking for a place that is about the accountability, about the planning, about the not doing this alone, the V.O Dojo's nth degree is our working pro division that is designed to do exactly this. It's always just us, but we never do it alone. So definitely find a time on my schedule to do that. Kelsey will put the to talk about what's possible there. Kelsey can put that link for a voiceover once over in the thing. And one of the elements of our working pro division is the V.O Dojo Pro Fight Club, which brings together top-notch talent and the decision makers who hire us. So 3 times a month we are seeing what happens in in the audition process, right? What actually happens. And coming up next Tuesday, the 27th, is Renee Johnson from Disney Character Voices is joining us. She joins us once a year. We are the only place that she does workshops. She does it's basically an amazing masterclass in voice matching, Disney, Pixar. It's an extraordinary thing. It's not recorded, so if you want to be there, player spots are demo repped and booking. You can get on our roster, and everyone can be a spectator. So, Yeah, so many good things to come. So that's what's going on at the dojo. We are always here to help you on this journey. The things that really struck me, which I'm taking with me, is remembering what we say at the dojo all the time: consistency, continuity, connection, community. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So everything you're talking about is that. And I loved the picture as well. We just did a mindset call at the dojo. Um, just recognizing that if you sleep 8 hours a night, you basically have 112 hours a week. And how are you going to spend those times? So yeah. Really, really good. All right. Well, let's see what's resonating with you, what questions you guys have. Because that's
And
yes.
let's come off camera to take a
Oh,
picture.
exactly. Thank you. Yes. Let's see our beautiful faces as well. There we go. Some beautiful faces. Hey,
Gonna
Robert.
take a
Yeah.
picture to post on socials. So
Yeah.
come on camera if you can. If you can't, don't worry.
All right. We got 2 pages too. That's great. All right. People are coming. People are coming. All
All
right.
right.
Say
3, 2, 1. Cheese.
Yay. All right. Do we got everyone?
3, 2, 1. Page 2. Cheese.
Yay. Cool.
Awesome.
Cool, cool, cool. Thank you. You have been
Hey,
photographed.
Tish,
Yeah.
I just wanted to plug the nth degree for a second. You were talking about it,
Mhm.
and I just want to plug that for other people as I took it, and it was probably one of the most helpful, insightful, like mind-changing courses I've taken in VO.
You're
And
talking about the career catapult?
yeah, so if
Yeah.
y'all haven't taken it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
So pardon
Excellent.
me for interrupting to plug your program.
You can always share what good experiences you've had at the dojo. That's
That's
always,
all I wanted to
always
say.
a good thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, good, good, good. And just to clarify, Ian's talking about our career catapult that we do twice a year, which is a 3-day intensive that takes everything you have in your voiceover career and goes whoo with it. And then ongoingly, we have weekly workouts and focus action forums. That's the nth degree program with the Fight Club. So
Which is
And I
awesome.
used both during my transition. So, yes.
exactly, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Ian. Awesome. Well, let's get some questions. Let's get your voices into the room. You've been listening so well and
Thank
beautiful.
you so much, also, everyone, for sticking with me. I was like, I have a lot of things to tell you.
It's good. It's good. Hmm. What questions do we have, Kels?
Okay. So Matthew Cox, come on up, and if you can't, let me know and I'll talk for you. I'll give you a fat 5 seconds.
There he is. He's got it.
I'm here, Kelsey. Uh, am I
But
repeating just what
yeah,
I
give me
typed?
your question for our
Oh,
replay friends.
yeah. The first question I had for Rachel was, Rachel, are you using any of your paintings to inspire voiceover projects like in children's books or anything like that and develop client relationships with publishers and that kind of stuff?
I am not actively using that, but I have, I have contemplated both making art that people could have printed on their own panels as well as children's books because I actually do write as well. So they're all on my radar.
Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah, yeah.
tremendous
Thank you.
thing to fall back on. Do you paint the pictures or the animated animals? Do you paint them on canvas from memory, or do you actually have you go to the zoo and you sketch them out and paint them, or how do you do that?
Um uh I don't just work from memory. that I have one of those, I think different people have different amount of how much of an image they hold. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Huh. I'm
That's
jealous of the
cool.
people who have all the details. But so yes, we absolutely have, like, when we travel, we are always taking pictures of all the animals that we see, and we go to the zoo a lot. So I have a ton of photography that we've taken. And then I also like these, jackalope. I looked at a whole bunch of reference pictures of different rabbits and then antlers and so I can like look at things and pull parts that I want from each.
Beautiful paintings, by the
So
way. They really
thank
are
you. Thank
cool.
you. I'm always
I have another.
I'm happy and sad. I talk to a dragon. I have a talking dragon that I face, but nobody ever sees it
Oh,
because it's
okay.
behind my camera.
Well, I talk to myself every day, every morning in the mirror, so I guess that's talking to a dragon, right? That was a joke.
Excellent.
Anyway, I have one more question. When when you first started auditioning, did you rely on voice 1, 2, 3, or did you just, did you just pick
I
it
do
up from
use the
there?
pay to plays. I like the pay to plays. I like that they give you um more regular opportunities. So of course, being agented and having auditions come from an agent is fantastic. Um, but I really appreciate the ability to be consistently auditioning that pay to plays give. So yes, I do use those.
And then, thank you for that answer. And then for, setting up your voiceover business, and then of course the social media and the website and all that stuff, did you find out that you needed help with that, or were you able to put it all together yourself, or?
I have website design. I am a person who's just very curious by nature, so I have a lot of like kind of random skills. Website design is one of them. So my website I do myself. I'm not great at doing social media. So actually, if you do search me out, I'm always like I should post more, and I'm terrible about doing it. And I always want to do like really complicated things, and then I just don't do them because they would take a lot of time. So I would admit, social media is not my primary spot of getting work.
Seems to be a set, an area that's sort of a roadblock for a lot of people
Yeah, and
until
it's one of
they.
those things where I feel like, if it works for you, great, go after that.
Yeah.
But also, there are a lot of successful voiceover artists who are not huge social media presences. So, um, if you hate it, don't do that. That's the beauty. It's your business. Um, do the parts that work for you. I mean, there are parts that you have to do, right? We all have to do our taxes. It's
Yeah.
required. But um like there are how you pursue um your career, you get to decide. It's one of the beauties of it, and it gets to be creative as well. I also I didn't used to I do some direct marketing now, but I like to be very personal with my direct marketing. That's just how I operate, and I have a lot of repeat clients. So that's another way that I actually has eased things over time as I just have more and more clients that come back. So that's the great thing. Build good relationships with your clients, and you'll keep getting work.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, Rachel. So we can have a mindset, oh, that's a roadblock, or don't drive down that road. Like, yeah, or that's cool. You don't have to use it to
Yeah,
build your business.
yeah.
So yeah. Good, good, good. Excellent. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you.
What's next? Who's next? Kelsey?
Okay, next we got Terry Terry. Come on up, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, what's up, Tish?
Mhm.
What's up, Kelsey? Nice
Mhm.
to see you, Rachel. Thank you for your time and your expertise. My question is a simple one. I'm making that transition right now as we speak,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to find out anything and everything that I can take things off of my plate. And I wanted to know if you had any useful automations or outsourcing to your process that you've added since you started full time.
Um, I so I used voiceover view for my tracking of my auditions and payments and all of that, and I found that very helpful. So that's a CRM that's available
Mm.
that's designed by a voiceover artist if people aren't familiar with that one. And I really thought it was fantastic. I have recently switched what I'm using because I do more than just voiceover. Um,
Mm.
I'm always like, "Oh, more things, more toys," uh, as we just said. Um, uh, and so a good CRM I think is great. I have not yet started automating with AI, but I'm sure that that is a piece. I'm trying to like side eye AI less.
Mhm.
Like be like, okay, well, what can you do for us
Mhm.
in addition to the other, the things that we need to be protected from? Um, Templates for invoices, build it once so that you don't have to build it over and over. Was one. And then of course there is VA for VO, so to
Mhm.
hire an assistant to do some of the things, and um, like as was mentioned, I did website stuff already, so I built my own, but that would be one that also I know there are a few different places that people outsource
I
voiceover
think
websites.
I think it could be an interesting thing depending on what business that you're moving from. Um, if you think, I mean, obviously getting help with anything, you have to have systems and clarify what it is that needs doing and then tell somebody um, what needs to be done and then perhaps have some guidance of how you want it to be done. So if you are coming from a corporate world, how is your job? How is your job described? What do you do? I mean, because if you're coming from a corporate world and you know SOPs and the things that you talk about or what are my roles and responsibilities, like the business things, then how do you set them up for your own business? Um, that's one of the first steps. You can't hire a VA. You can hire a VA, but until you know what it is that needs doing, you can't have them help you with it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's true.
that's a good.
But yeah, that's true. So I mean, some of that early stuff, especially, I do think that having a CRM helped me a lot. It gets you off of a spreadsheet. So
Mhm.
that does help. And it makes it like way easier to track what's paid, what isn't paid yet. Um, and then making invoice templates so that you can very quickly put in the information. I keep trying to find I'm like, why isn't that an AI thing yet? But you always have
That
to
should
put the
be an AI
client,
thing.
right? Like I hate sending invoices, but
That in contracts.
yeah,
But I have actually found that ChatGPT is good for writing voiceover contracts.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you for your answer.
yeah, yeah.
Who's next, Kelsey?
Yes, we have Joseph Simon yet, and I'll be reading for him because he's recovering from surgery.
Oh,
Uh,
goodness.
and first I gotta do really big stretch. That's super obnoxious. Okay. So when at parties or working or when at a most important gala event, whatever it is, what is your favorite thought process to have before a general proceeding of anything in life? Just a light little question. No, yeah.
Be in the moment. I think joy of doing. Enjoy what you're doing at each moment, and when you catch yourself resenting it, try to find what you can enjoy in it instead. Find somebody to watch. Find some something interesting about the room. I mean, you can always it's easy to tear things down and it's hard to build things up. So I always try to find the thing that I can enjoy in that moment. And even the really hard things, we've been going through some really hard things recently that are awful in the moment. some family. But I still am like learning and growing so much, so I can like step back and be like, I know more each moment than I knew the moment before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that if that was
Yeah, I
what you
think
were looking for.
also riding the waves, and then there was something about Joe's question too that was about sort of meeting people and building relationships. I think just trusting that every time you talk to somebody opens some possibility of some connection that you didn't know or could be the beginning of something that, becomes something that impacts the rest of your life. So if you don't, if you don't relax and trust yourself to go say, hi, it's me. And then listen to what, it's these relationships and collaborations and interactions is where we build together. We build things together. We don't do things alone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't. We're not very big things, right?
Yeah.
Not very big.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Be there. You're there. So be there. I My dad died unexpectedly multiple years ago now, but it he was very vibrant. He was vibrantly alive, and then he was gone. And so it really helps me now to remember, like, value the time you have and use it to to fulfill your life, because you never know.
It's true. Yeah. Good, good, good. Well, I love um, I think I always say at the dojo, voiceover is a great way of making a living. And when you live it fully, it becomes a way of life. So that we have these philosophical moments of what does it all mean? What are we here for? That's part of doing this work. That's part of the job. So yeah. Good. Who's next? Kelsey?
Yes, we have Ian Kleinfeld coming up, friend.
Hey, Ann.
Oh, hey, you answered my question, so I took down my hand, but thank you. I just want to say thank you for all the good info. So that's all, Rachel.
Yeah.
Why does my video
Absolutely.
keep off? I don't know. Probably because it doesn't want me to be seen in this state. But yeah, thanks for all the really good info, and I actually just sent you an email. So, um, yeah, I only came about halfway through, but I got a lot out of it. Thank you.
Great, great.
Awesome. Glad you're here.
And the replay will be out on Monday. So any goodness that
Oh
you
yeah,
missed, it'll be up on the channel.
that's what I meant to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Adam Dergerman.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
So question that I had on there was a little bit more on the like the finding and the sourcing of of the job. So the whole question from its thing was, how much of your outreach of your new jobs do you do via that direct marketing that you're so, personalized about versus how it comes from other sources? And the kind of the second part to that was, if they do come from those other sources, where were they coming from? Were there referrals, pay to plays, were there agents that you've got used and stuff like that from there? Does that make sense?
It does, and I am a I am a non-exclusive voiceover pound the pavement-er. So I have worked on many of the pay-to-plays. I do direct outreach. I contact people via LinkedIn. I absolutely have had some referrals. And then, like I said, I also have a lot of repeat clients. And that's, I think, a thing that sometimes people uh, maybe don't talk about enough as far as the pay to plays. Like, I have multiple clients who either on the pay to plays or off of them eventually, we continue to work together. So all of those, even when you get just a small job, remember to treat that client really well, because it's very possible that they'll just keep coming back.
Mm.
Yeah, it's all about the relationships, and really how you build a business is repeat clients, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's really the key to the kingdom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
I really loved what you said, Rachel, too, about treat your business as a client. Like take your business out to lunch once in a while. Ask your business what exactly it's needing. What is it looking for?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you need? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Kelsey.
um, I also just wanted to say really quick, that you know, an agent isn't a band-aid for everything. You still have to do direct marketing and outreach. And a lot of people don't know that. They think like, once I get an agent, it's gonna be so easy. But that's just not like I know someone who's working with Portia Scott, who works under Portia Scott and some of the biggest talent agencies, and he still does direct marketing, you know? So
Yeah.
I just
Rosters
want
are also nice.
yeah.
Every time I hear of a roster, I sign up for it.
Let the work come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because yeah, then every once in a while you just randomly have someone contact you. Heard you on this roster. So
Yes, let me actually post that the VO master list of rosters in the chat for y'all. So y'all can consult that. But um next up, actually I think next up is me. I have a question.
Hmm.
excellent.
So my question for you, Rachel, is how did you and your partner, what strategies did you utilize for you to take on an adaptable load of work? So like housework and everything like that. I think you mentioned you have a partner,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm curious about this because, I love cleaning, but the problem is I get hyper fixated on cleaning and then I burn through all of my energy and I'm neurodivergent, my partner's neurodivergent, so I'm like kind of wanting to see what other people do in terms of like how do you allocate your energy resources?
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. And I touched on that a little bit, but to your point of having a partner, I think, having honest conversations about what it's going to look like, agreeing what it's going to look like when you're getting ready for a sprint, discussing that you're getting ready for a sprint and what that's going to look like, pulling in extra resources when you can during those times. So for instance, like I mentioned, young child, on those times when I was doing a sprint, we pulled more on the grandparents that we had available. So, I mean, that's a resource we had, but just like to give Ian, my partner, some breaks because he was on so much in the evenings. If you have some, not that Ian, if you have some if you have another job, which is, again, our purpose here, actually while I was doing this, we hired a house cleaner. Um, because, it is like, well, if you have two jobs, there is maybe a little bit more flexibility in your income. So maybe take some of those things off your plate that aren't for your business and your job so that you can focus on those. So actually that one specifically, we had a house cleaner during that time. We don't now and I miss it. um but things flex. We also had a really serious talks about the money because I it was a big part of our income is dependent on me. So uh, it requires very, very honest conversations about what both people are comfortable with so that you can go through this with your partnership still also strong.
Thank you. That's a great answer.
And, just to add one more, also, there's give and take. So also hopefully maybe at some point, then the partner will have something going on in the future and then you support them through that. And that also over the years feels good. So.
More questions? Are there any more questions, Kels?
No, I was the last question.
Oh, Right. Okay.
I was just going to say, if anyone wants to come up and share, or they have anything on their mind that they would like to say, or something that they're trying to work through and they're like, but it's super hyper specific and probably no one else. Yes, they are. Someone watching going through this is going through it. So whatever you want to share is very helpful.
Yeah. I would love to hear what you're taking with you today. We call them Dojo O's at the dojo, but what's something that you're taking with you today? Um, we'd love to hear that if anyone's up for it.
Matthew, come on up.
Yeah, I have, probably a pretty basic question, but I'm kind of technically having issues with my recording where the input records very low, and then I have to normalize it up to 0 dB to get it to record to make it sound normal. Did anyone else have that problem where their input was really low and
Well, let's see. I think so. So first of all, that is a very, very specific question. Not exactly what we're talking about. In general, check your gain. Check your interface
well,
because
I
there
guess I
might be
could
places where
address the question to Rachel if she's encountered technical issues. Did she have
in general,
yeah,
how do you deal with
yeah.
technical issues while you're doing two jobs?
Sorry about that,
Oh
Tish.
yeah, no worries. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, uh, for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, for sure, again, I'm a very curious person, so I tend to kind of like research lots of things on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I did like quite a bit of training on there. I actually also took some trainings on Udemy, if anybody is familiar with that, about different so for audition, I took a Udemy course. I know there are also people who offer some, but so in the voiceover community, people offer some. So I did when I was building up. So earlier on, I did actually pursue some trainings in some different areas that I felt would make me stronger overall in the business, right? So audio production, audio DAWs, some of that stuff. So that is a thing that I did. And that was when I was really like, I was fine that it was part-time, and so I was like, I'm slowly building this up. I can do this extra training. When it's more critical and shorter, there are, of course, some great resources that can help. So Jordan Reynolds, George Whittam, the guy who did stuff with George Whittam for a long time. They had the show together. I can't
Dan
think of his name
Leonard.
right now.
Done,
Yes,
done
yeah,
Leonard,
Leonard.
yeah,
All fantastic.
yeah.
So getting connected with any of them. George helped me design my booth. So if you also get to that point, that's a whole different, like when I worked out of a closet, but when I went full time, we were like, I need a booth. I can't be telling everyone, hey, everybody quiet. So George actually helped me design my custom booth. So he's
Got
very
it. Thank you.
wonderful. But yeah.
Yeah, and Nick Santaseer is our dojo sensei, tech sensei now. The key there is know stuff yourself to a certain point, and then know people who know more than you.
Yes.
That's really the
And
question.
have doubles of all your cables. Just
Right.
yesterday, I had to swap out one of my cables.
And have
Yeah,
a spare interface just in case.
right. Yeah. Two
Thank
underwears.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to share or dojo O's or um shall we wrap it up? Not too bad. Not too bad. Oh,
Lena wanted to share.
yeah, hi, Lena. We can't hear you though.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see you, Tish. I just wanted to say that I really love, there was something you said, Rachel, about keeping your view on the mountain and still manipulating the highways as long as you keep that in focus. And that really resonated with me because that's been my journey. I'm dealing with a lot of family things, and but I'm still, at my own pace, and it is a journey. Everyone's VO well, journey, viaje is unique to them. And anyway, thank you. I loved all the takeaways and all the learnings. And Tish, you look awesome. So nice to see you. So
Thank
nice to
you.
see you. And thank you to all for your questions and all the great information. Lots of love and all the best.
Thank you. All right. Well, it seems like a really lovely place to thank everybody. Please do. If I haven't talked to you in a while, if you have questions about anything here at the dojo, hop on my calendar, and we'll be very, very excited to talk with you. And please do reach out to Rachel because, like I said earlier, we don't do anything alone, and we go faster when we do it together. So, yeah. So. Thank you,
It's been an
Rachel.
honor to be here.
As
So thanks everyone who's
always,
Thanks,
stuck
Rachel.
with us this whole time.
and thank you, Kelsey, for keeping everything going and flowing. Um, hopefully, we'll see you next time on the next Get to Know V.O and all the good things. So, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and go forth empowered.
Ciao.
Bye.